An organization called Aid Access uses telemedicine to provide women seeking to end their pregnancies a proper consultation and the subsequent abortion pills. If a woman is eligible, the organization will prescribe 2 abortion pills. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
Welcome to another edition of The More You Know. I'm Andrew Caravella. It looks like today's October 30th, National Candy Corn Day. You either love it or you hate it. It's one or the other. You see, Candy Corn Day celebrates candy corn, the corn kernel-shaped candy often eaten during Halloween and throughout the autumn months. You see, it began being manufactured in the 1880s by the Wonderly Candy Company and was originally called Chicken Feed. At that time, candy corn was marketed to rural residents, and around the 20th century, the Golitz Confectionery Company, now known as Jelly Belly, began making candy corn. Today's recipe for candy corn is basically the same as it was when it was invented, except at that time, the candy was made by hand, which no longer is the case. There are variations of the candy corn for different holidays and occasions. Indian corn has a chocolate brown end instead of the yellow, popular around Thanksgiving. During Christmas, it's reindeer corn, Independence Day, freedom corn, and bunny corn during Easter. I'm Andrew Caravella. This has been The More You Know.
This is KCAA.
Looks so pretty, you'll see. Amarillo, and Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona. Don't forget Nona, Big Sun, Moscow, St. Bernardino.
What's up, team? This is Robert Porter and Commonwealth with the I Love San Bernardino County radio show on KCAA NBC 106.5 FM, 102.3 FM, 1050 AM, where we will talk culture, politics, a tiny bit of history today, that's for sure. How you doing today, Carmel?
I'm very good today, Robert. How about yourself?
Excellent, excellent today. And we have Scott Olson and Al Kelly in the house.
Hola.
We may have a few callers call in from the outside world. We're hoping they'll call in and give us their update on what they think San Bernardino's going through, or maybe on the elections or whatever they wish. So if you need to call on in, our number is 1-888-909-1050, 1-888-909-1050. I'd like to start out with a little bit of history, because you know how I am. I love my history. And if I don't start in the beginning of the show with the history, guess what?
We don't talk about it.
Yeah, we usually don't get to it. So I'll talk about one of my favorite hospitals locally, St. Bernardine's. When St. Bernardine's Hospital opened its doors in 1931, the city of San Bernardino was already an exciting and robust community. It had not only survived the great and often violent surge into the west, it had prospered because of it. It was a hub of the rail transportation, a thriving business community surrounded by wealthy vacation spots and spas that were playgrounds of the rich and famous. Its downtown roads were paved, its streets were lighted, and its streetcars filled with business people and busy shoppers frequented its main thoroughfares. It was a community in transition, a melting pot of Mexican, Native American, Asian, and European cultures. The new St. Bernardine Hospital was perhaps the one place in the entire city where none of the differences in people mattered. A place where the science of medicine and the tenets of faith combined, bringing hope and help to thousands and enabled them to restore their health and resume their lives. So this is from the book A Legacy of Caring, the short story of St. Bernardine Medical Center, and it's a really good book. I think they give it out for free over there, so if you can get it, I have to. My chair actually sunk down there while I was talking. I was like, "Whoa! I lost all the air."
Hey, Robert, did they also utilize the Arrowhead Hot Springs too for curative?
Oh,
purposes?
absolutely. Yeah, like the first person that rolled in there, they call it like Indian healing springs, I believe.
Right.
And that's because there was lots of petroglyphs in Indian writings around there, but most of them are
Most
gone
are
now.
gone. Yeah. Huh.
Very interesting stuff there. I think his name was Mr. Smith.
Right.
Oh, good history,
Arden.
good history. You know, I love it. But that's a little bit of a history. And I was born there in 1976. What hospital were you born in, Carmel?
I was born in Loma Linda.
You were born in Loma Linda Hospital.
But we lived at 1704 Bonita Vista, and the night I was born, they used our truck to rob our house in San Bernardino.
What?
In
Really?
1976.
Way back in the day?
Yes.
Oh, wow. It's still San Bernardino County. Still San Bernardino County. All right. Well, I want to talk a little bit about a great day that I had yesterday. We had the fourth annual, we called it a dead man's party, but it's like the Scary Shack over there at the Green Shack Marketplace. Manel did a great job with Nick Harney and inviting the mayor, Eloise Reyes, representative stopped by.
Oh, cool.
We had Frank Montez over there. We had the Mounties on the horses, on the big Clydesdale. The kids loved that. We had 2 fire trucks where the kids could get up in there and climb. And
Forest
play.
Service?
No, they were a San Bernardino County Fire Department. And that was really cool because, the kids like the games and everything,
yeah.
but you bring
They
the fire
love
truck.
the fire truck.
Yeah, they showed up right when the mayor was about to speak, kind of, because we just had the costume contest, and I had the Mounties give out the pumpkins to the kids, and then the fire trucks came and there was no one.
Gone,
Yeah, everyone disappeared, but. Yep. But he did a little speech and thanked Manel and the Green Shack and Jerry Martinez and Ardeen Iskander for having the Green Shack in San Bernardino for 40 full years. I mean, that is a long time to have a business. They've gone through a huge transition to where some of their number one sellers back in the day were high-end liquor. And now it's honestly
Morgan
cent
David.
beer.
yeah, beer,
Morgan David.
beer, and really it's the deli that's made it. And they do a lot of wire transfers.
Is
and
it
things
an
like that.
ethnic deli or?
She has a little bit of everything there. She has a mafia meatball. That's one of my favorites. I had
funny.
a Havana Cubana, which was like a pulled pork kind
Yes,
of
banana pudding.
Oh,
vanilla wafers.
Really?
Yeah, there's a juice shack over there, so you can get pressed coffee and things like that. They have everything at the Green Shack. Good stuff.
Yeah, I've eaten.
And a travel agency. Sorry.
I've eaten there several times, and the food is really good, and it's very unique. It's very original too, which a lot of times when you go to get food, it's the same old, same old. Theirs is not. It's individual, and it's good.
And the bread is wonderful.
Oh, it's so good. Well, this is the cool part about
Robert,
the
why you
shack.
didn't bring us any sandwiches?
So Benito Rodriguez and Joseph Moya, Brian Davison, Richard Rodriguez, Tino, the whole crew from Blessing Angels came by. They brought 500 hot dogs and buns. 500. We gave them all away. Guess how much?
Free.
Free. So the kids, there's lots of homeless that hang around and out in that area between the gas station and Green Shack, and they all got to eat hot dogs. We welcomed them in. And they were actually like part of the party. You know what I'm saying? They were just happy to have some community, feel like a part of something, get a meal in their belly, get some waters, lots of free candy, and I seen a lot of them walking about. Come on over, join the community, have a good time. Now, you can't always do that with all of them because some of them are mental and they were doing their own little thing. But the other ones, I think, they're just humans that are on the wrong foot and they just need someone to love them. So
Everybody's one paycheck away from being homeless.
Right,
Yes.
that's profound. Yeah.
And I'm just glad that the Blessing Angels came through like that, and not only just for the homeless, but all those kids ate hot dogs and parents ate hot dogs and popcorn, and they were just all smiles. They didn't have to pay for a lunch that day, so maybe they got a little better dinner.
500 hot dogs is
Yeah.
a lot
That's
of
a
hot
lot.
dogs.
Well, Brian, I asked Brian, like, why so many? He goes, this time we weren't going to run out. So, like, we didn't, but actually we did. Around
Brian got
3
them for you?
Yeah, Brian Davison and the Blessing Angels in general did all
Okay.
that. And then there was 2 50-inch screen TVs, right? So this is what's cool. You know how raffles, a lot of times someone gets it, but you don't really know them or whatever. This time, it happened to be Candy Candelera. She won one of the 50-inch screen TV. She's been coming for 4 years and setting up the games. And each time, the game gets a little better prize. And this time, she had like all these Halloween decorations, like ones that my mom buys to put up at my house. She was giving away for free. So she had went over to the 99-cent store and they like donated a bunch.
Nice.
So like, then she won the TV. So like, I was like, wow, man, the creator set right there, right? Well, guess who else won a TV?
You.
Barbara Babcock, Miss B, she won a TV too. Now you got to give her some props here because like she has been coming to every single one. And the first one, she actually had time for change, bring a whole van of kids over to the event. So she did her time. So I was like, wow, and she didn't even keep the TV herself. She gave it to her landlord. So I thought that was pretty nice.
She gave it to Michael.
Yeah. And then the coolest part. All right, so Chuck, the gold guy, he does free events all over this whole community, all the way into...
What's Chuck's last name?
Jojola. So he's a Pueblo Native American from New Mexico, but he loves San Bernardino and Redlands in this area, and he loves teaching kids gold panning, and his whole crew came out, dressed up, brought all their equipment, and then he won the raffle for the 6-foot grinder from Green Shack that was donated. So I was like, wow, everyone that won the stuff was like really hard-working volunteers. And I mean, that was just like, wow, was this set up? So that was really cool. And we had about, I'd say about 300, 400 kids show up there and then with their parents and stuff. And then cycle on through. So it was an excellent event. What else did we do? We did a couple things this weekend, this last couple of weeks. What else? Man, I have so many things that I do.
Robert does all of them.
Full moon circle.
Yeah, okay, the family cultural night, we did that, and we did with Cindra Weber. She brought soapstone.
Oh,
so I got to
nice.
do soapstone carving, and all the
nice.
kids got to make their own little arrowhead and put it on a necklace. So I thought that was
It was
so
real
cool.
soapstone?
Real soapstone, yeah.
Nice.
So we have a little file there, and
Nice.
and they actually gave me a few pieces to take home, so
Beautiful.
I can carve my own. A nice little bear piece. So they make good little idols,
Yeah.
and it's really soft, the stone, and it feels like baby powder. And in fact, Native Americans used it as a type of talcum powder because that's
Right.
what it's talc.
Is it it's a sedimentary stone, I imagine? Right? That soft?
I don't believe so. I think it is made in because it's on the Channel Islands. The biggest source is on Catalina.
Oh, so that would have to be...
I think it's igneous.
Igneous,
Yeah,
yeah.
or possibly
Or
metamorphic.
metamorphic, yeah.
But I'm not really sure. And in fact, that's an excellent question. But I do know that it is highly thermodynamic, soapstone. So that's why it was a superior material to pottery. And a lot of pottery...
just fire it up?
Yeah, a lot of pottery wasn't around here, and especially closer to the coast, because soapstone is a superior pot, and you can heat it up, cool it down, heat it up, cool it down,
right.
and it won't break.
I
So
can't believe you guys know all these things. Like sitting here, like what? How do y'all even know all this stuff?
it's kind of like if you had to live that way, you probably would know what soapstone was, because those people that had those utensils and those pots probably were like, wow, they can cook. You know, like if you cook in a clay pot, eventually it cracks and breaks.
Right.
But this would last a long time. So that's how we did. We did
Very
soapstone, and the next one will be on November 13th. And it's over there at the Professional Development Center, 430 Georgia Boulevard. It's like by Hallmark and University, right over in that area. It's in a big school board building where they have a bunch of conferences and a bunch of offices over there. So it's called Family Cultural Night. If you'd like to bring your kids to it, it's free for Native American kids. It's free for any kids that want to come. So bring your parents, kids.
You have to pay. Do you have to pay a fee to
No,
do
it's
the
all
activity?
it's all free, and it's like we kind of try to like. There's not a lot of people that come, so we haven't had to build up a lot of extra supplies and material. But eventually, if a lot more people come, we will do that.
Yeah, I applaud you, because I know in this day when everybody is scared of their own shadow and they're getting more, insulated, to get really people to come out of their houses and their kids, I applaud you all for doing that. I really do.
And this is going to be even better. Now, Cindra came up to me. She's like, How about we start, like we saw the Latino bee I went over to at Pacific High School, and it was a Latino history bee, like a spelling bee, but except for history. A Latino history bee, there you go. And Sindra wants to do it for Native Americans. So I thought that would be really cool to set up. And then at the powwow, hopefully we're gonna maybe try to set up. Jackie wants to set up like kind of like this family cultural night, but at the actual powwow, so the kids can come in there and do soapstone and all that stuff in there.
That'd be great.
But then also maybe I could have all my California fossils and local world fossils, and have a little fossil museum in there, and then maybe we can get someone to bring in some Native American artifacts for the museum too. And then we could have a little museum there. So I thought that was really a great idea that Jackie brought up. So we're making plans to try to do good things for kids in the community that they can learn and have a nostalgia and great feelings for San Bernardino when they grow up, and want to stay here and teach more kids.
Maybe having taught in this community for almost 20 years, anywhere from Redlands, I think we had a day nursery all the way to Cal State. And that's just it. No, it was never any emphasis on what was going on here and the history of it. The other thing I knew, there was a real cool lake at here one time that you had gondolas that went across, and I wish they would have brought that back. And they tried to do that with the Rivers and Streams projects.
Meadowbrook Lake, right?
No, it was the larger lake. It was a 100-acre lake.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's not Meadowbrook, right?
No.
That would be the one that was by Inland Center.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, isn't that Meadowbrook Lake?
No.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it with the gondola.
Amazing.
Ladies in their dresses and stuff sitting in the park lake. And it was a hot springs, right? Yes, so it was like... it
was a hot and a cold spring,
Yeah, and it was a major Native American site as well.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah,
cottonwoods everywhere around it. Beautiful.
And right there is where, when the earthquake happened in the late 1800s, a actual black hot springs popped up there.
Right.
And that's what drove the Native Americans to want to attack Poltolana, because they thought...
Sulfur?
Yeah, they thought that was a bad omen, that they were there and a hot springs popped up. And it was the black sulfur variety, and they didn't like that.
Yeah, that'll kill you.
Yeah, so they attacked it, and that may be why we didn't have a mission here, because of that attack right there when that happened.
Or the sulfurous.
Yeah. And if you know anything about Native American culture, earthquakes were a scary thing then, just like now.
Yeah.
So that's a little bit about that.
Nice.
Pretty cool. What have you been up to, Carmel?
I've been fighting with the homeless people in the city.
You're fighting with the homeless?
Mm-hmm.
What were they doing? What are they doing?
Well, when I went to Alabama for 4 days and I came back, I have a commercial building at the entryway of Route 66, which is, I believe, 21st or 20th in Mount Vernon. And I come back and they have built like 6 or 12 homeless encampments inside my fence, have broken down my property door. Are vandalizing my property. And then as I'm like in process of calling the police, my dad calls me and he's cussing me out, and he's telling me that now he's receiving a $1,000 fine for this, and I was only gone for 4 days.
For what? Wait a minute, that's
for this homeless encampment. So needless to say, then I had to call the code enforcement, and I had to call the PD, and I called the PD again, and they didn't show up. And then I got ticked off a little bit again. And then I called the quality of life people twice, and they didn't show up. So then my dad, he's so funny, he's 70, and he doesn't really know how to use the email. I swear he can't use the email. Okay, but so he tries to send the code officer an email, but he sends it to www.sbcity.org. I'm like, Dad, what do you mean? How did you expect it to get there, So I forwarded my dad's email to Captain Lawhead, and I just was like begging him, like, please help me help you. Like, if people are destroying my property right now as I'm writing this email and there's nothing I can do about it, my workers won't go over there, they're scared. I'm not going to go over there. Like, if there's like 12 or 6 or 15 against me, I'm not going to win. I don't carry a gun. So eventually Captain Law had got it, but then I just called back and I said, I need to speak to the watch commander. And then I spoke to the watch commander, well, they ask you a bunch of questions before you can even speak to the watch commander, which, I mean, you shouldn't really just give me the watch commander if you didn't do the right thing the last 5 times I called, you know. And so then I got this guy on the phone, and then he started helping me. Make a long story short, then I got the quality of life guy, Jay, and he sent me this, and he's a really cool dude. I really like this guy. And he sent me this form saying that it's no trespass, so if they go there, then they can arrest everybody, and then I don't have to go there. But I'm like, why didn't people tell me that up front, right? I could have signed that.
That's what Starbucks has now. So like,
Just arrest people?
Well, yeah. Well, what happens is they camp out on the property as soon as you leave, and if you don't give the police permission to take them trespassers off, they are not allowed to take them. So you actually have to sign paperwork to allow them to take people off your property trespassing after hours.
But, I mean, this was like a whole homeless, I mean, really what it looked like is they were charging people to dump on my property. And so, make a long story short.
Why didn't you go, you could have turned this into lemonade. Why don't you go over there and, like, start charging them all rent?
Because you can't do that. I mean,
No, they don't have any money.
the city is going to be pissed, and then I'm going to get $1,000 fine, and then.
Can't we subdivide the property up and make a bunch of small houses?
No, and they were like, I think they were all crazy. So,
they were mentally ill, huh?
So
The city was crazier, the homeless people.
all of the above. so I'm going to tell you, finally over the weekend, the one guy from the Quality of Life, he goes over, he tells them he has the paper. If they don't get off my property, he's going to come back and he's going to arrest them all. And they threw off like 5 of them. And we cleaned up and we got a new fence, right? And then so last night, Sunday night, I drive by about 5:15. They're outside of my fence now, still on my property, and still halfway in the middle of the street, right? Like, now I'm really ticked, okay? I'm like, so I called the police again this morning. I called the police at 9 o'clock. It was 4 o'clock when the police showed up today. They finally put 3 of them in handcuffs. They let them go because they didn't have any warrants, and then the city truck came and picked up all their stuff. So finally, successfully, from last Monday or Tuesday, I finally got them off of my property, and I went through the whole San Bernardino system, and I did receive help, so I'm not complaining. And once I figured out how to get through the system, I could get some help. But my problem is I think that a regular person, because I don't consider myself a regular person, I think that a regular person might not be able to get through the system.
Carmel, you just did a beautiful primer for what it takes, and that's the sheer frustration in any levels of bureaucracy and layers. And thank you for doing that. And I hope everybody was listening to that, because that's the sheer frustration. If you can, methodically go through those steps, and you're going to get something. But that was beautiful.
I have a question. Someone hit me up today, and they wanted to know, Mount. They're like, how do I get their attention about Mount? Okay, this is what I have to do, city. Like, on my free time, I get messages about how to fix my city. That should be going to you, right? But I take time out of my day because I love San Bernardino that much. I don't get 1 cent for any of this stuff. All I get out of it is the fact that hopefully some good things will happen if you give someone the guidance to do these steps properly, like you said. And what would you do if you wanted Mount Vernon repaved?
Well, they'd probably tell you to put in a CRM, which is the thing from the Go request, which then I got something else to say about that. So the dog pound came knocking at my door, or my kids called it the police. They're like, the police are here, Mom. I'm like, what do you mean? And so somebody turned in saying that my dogs bark at 3 a.m. And when the guy's telling me, he's like, oh, well, somebody put in a CRM request. But you wouldn't know what that is. It's just a complaint. Now, first of all, I did know what that was. And second of all, if you were talking to a person who doesn't know what that was, that would be a very good opportunity to explain the Go Request app to get more people to use it. And I just, I was very frustrated by the whole thing.
Where's this Go Request app at? What do you
mean? You download it from the App Store or the Play Store, but it lets you report street lights, it lets you report potholes, it lets you report graffiti, it lets you report vandalism, it lets you report homeless encampments, it lets you report a whole bunch of things. Now, at the same time, it kind of lets the city get away with stuff because, like some of my requests, it took a year for them to process through.
Yeah, Sandra said that some of hers don't get looked at either.
And then they pass the buck, and then they just keep telling you to do this over and over again. But I think a few minor tweaks, and I think that if our city ever was really using the resources and the manpower they had, like wisely, if you were in a Fortune 500 business, you definitely wouldn't run it how the city runs. You wouldn't waste money and manpower the way they do, because you would be bankrupt and out of business and you couldn't function because you weren't a government entity and you weren't going to get a bailout.
Isn't like what happened to us, right?
Yeah.
What's still happening?
Well, you got to remember, with the city workers, a lot of them, they really are trying to do the best they can do with what they've got. But they can only do as much as what they're given. And their supervisors can only work with as much as they are. Everything you look at when you're talking about government agency, follow the trail uphill. Right. And eventually you'll find at the top of the heap, which is the elected officials, that's what they're elected for, it's some hang-up that they've got. It always comes down to that.
So
What's San Bernardino's problem, Scott Olson? I need to know.
Well, no, I want to know. So what would that be for the mayor in Valdivia, Councilman Valdivia?
Okay, you got to realize, whenever you have anybody who's an incumbent, mean they're already elected, okay, if they're running on the promises of the things they're going to change and do better, they just admitted they blew it. Okay? When you have somebody who's an incumbent, okay, and they have to tell you things like, well, we got rid of the fire department, that was a wonderful accomplishment, and it's costing everybody $150 a year.
54.
Or we took care of the trash problems, and they're collecting $3 million a year for doing nothing, and your trash bill goes up because they're the ones who created the agreement that, Burtec is a for-profit
And we got
company.
no say-so.
Yeah, and they do not allow you to vote on anything.
Or speak, for that matter.
Their definition of success, in my mind, is not very positive. Now, when you have somebody who's been around for 4, 5, 6 years, who's been a target, I mean...
My question is Valdivia an incumbent?
No. Valdivia is a city council person. I love what the Mayor Davis's supporters have said, that if there's a problem in the 3rd ward, like the animal shelter, it's got to be all John's fault because he's the counselor for that ward. It can't be Davis's fault. That kind of logic has just been deceptively all over the internet. With Valdivia, he's seen the problems for several years. And quite honestly, if you're happy with San Bernardino and you think it's perfectly okay, then you vote for an incumbent. If you think that we could do better in this city, if we had somebody with some fresh new ideas to give it a fresh try, then you have only one choice, and that's to vote for the person who's running against the incumbent. Right. In this case, it's Valdivia.
And I know what an incumbent is.
Yeah.
And what I was saying is that a lot of people look at the fact that Valdivia and the mayor are both on the same council, and they kind of look at them that they're both responsible
I
for
got
what's
an answer.
happening. Yes.
I do too.
Go ahead, Scott.
I'll make it quick. The simple to this answer is very simple. When John Valdivia was first elected, the powers that be that support the mayor were not very happy. 4 months after he was in office, they tried to recall him, claiming that he was one of the big problems for the bankruptcy. How can you be?
Right.
It's and most of their claims have about as much credibility as John caused the bankruptcy. At the same time, they're saying the former mayor, who was the mayor 6 years before bankrupt, he never did anything wrong. When you have a group of people telling you the current mayor, when your city's in our shape, doesn't do anything wrong, that's a dead giveaway that they're probably not being very truthful about Valdivia or any other person running against him. Because in politics, if you don't have a record to stand on, you go dirty and you go against the person running against you. And let's trust me, we all know all the accusations at Valdivia, it ain't been nice.
All right, now I'm going to put you on the spot here. Who are you going to pick for the 4th ward with Fred Charette and Alex Beltran?
I promised Fred I would not run anything against him. Honest truth is I didn't have time to do it anyway. But now, that being said, since I am no longer on the Republican Central Committee, even though Fred is endorsed by the Republican Central Committee, which was a stupid idea, the only reason he got it is because he's an incumbent, and it's a matter of procedural rules that gave it to him, not because he earned it.
Fred's a Republican?
Fred is a Republican. He's actually an alternate on the Republican Central Committee.
How come that's not on his flyer?
Oh.
Well, what can you say? You see,
Nonpartisan.
I can't go much farther than that because, like I said, I wasn't going to say much about negative. Now, I honestly don't know Alex Beltran, so I'm not going to say anything negative about her.
This is what I'll say for Alex. Last Thursday, Arthur had his forum for cannabis in the two initiatives over here, and Henry Nichols showed up, and Alex Beltran showed up. So I was really proud of them, and they did their little spiel. Now I'll just be straight honest. They know a little bit about cannabis. They need to do more studying.
Did they inhale?
I could have schooled them, and I didn't. But I did play the role of asking a little bit more about the personal cultivation issues. I wish you would have been there, Carmel. If you would have been there, it would have been a little differently because it was kind of like a soapbox forum instead of...
I got it. But the point is, the whole thing is honestly, it doesn't really matter. Because we've been fighting this and fighting this and fighting this.
And cannabis is going to win. I mean, I'll just be honest. It's going to win in everything just if it has the word cannabis. But this is my problem. This is what I told Mr. Nickel. I go, if we're going to receive lawsuits anyways, because over in Fontana, Judge Cohn may strike down some of those personal cultivation things like high fees and things, right? So that would, if ours passes, that will make ours...
Stronger.
What makes it because we have those
make us weak.
Yeah, because we're going to get sued again by the ACLU for having the same thing that Fontana had.
Yeah, that they're
because of the actions of our city attorney
ACLU.
and our city mayor, we had an ordinance against marijuana. And if you notice, there are a lot of cities around San Bernardino that had ordinance against marijuana, and they are standing strong without issues. They're not having the problems we are. When the city put out Measure P, and it was nothing more than a poison pill trying to suck votes out of the other ones, they literally destroyed the credibility of the ordinance banning marijuana, which left our city wide open. It was a free-for-all.
The thing is that they're still operating illegally, not marijuana, but the city. They really, this whole ordinance, this is what they're doing. This is why they're doing it. And they honestly, that Stephanie Smith's ordinance, I honestly believe that she had enough signatures, and if they would have counted every single one, she should have been on the ballot.
Definitely.
And I think that the city had a plan, and I honestly think that the city clerk bought into the plan, and that's why she's now keeping her job where before she wasn't. And I think that the city is trying to shove marijuana down right now because they're putting this tax. And so then they can save face to their people, the 1%.
Well, how about my little conspiracy theory here? How about this? Push Stephanie Smith out on purpose because they knew that how Judge Cohn was going to rule on that Fontana issue, and they knew they would have the same issue. So this new ordinance gets in, right? Then they'll be in more litigation, so it won't be done, but they'll still have the tax one done, and they can start collecting taxes from Measure O.
The thing is, though, I don't really think they knew from Judge Cohn because Judge Cohn doesn't really side with the city. Like, he really...
Well, no, but the lawsuit itself kind of makes sense.
I understand.
When you're charging like $400 for your personal cultivation permit or whatever, that's almost putting it out of the range of most locals.
What they're doing...
year.
Every individual they're asking you to pay that?
Every house.
Why is that bad?
To pay $400
because most people can't even keep their lights on in our city.
And this is the other thing. It has to be done inside.
That's ridiculous. But that violates the state greenhouse.
And
gas
if
law,
you did have to do it inside, all that cultivation equipment's thousands and thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I mean, then electricity, and when they could just grow a plant right outside in their yard for free.
And a lot of houses in the city, are old, and they have that old knob and tube kind of electrical.
Right.
And you really shouldn't be running that kind of stuff in the house.
Yeah, here's the situation with all of this, and I've listened to it. Anybody knows me is I don't use marijuana. Mayor Davis, as mayor,
you want to smoke a joint after the show?
You already know
not
he
going to
doesn't.
happen, Robert. Okay. Mayor Davis sat as mayor, and he had the veto power when Measure P came up. If he was really serious about keeping our city's laws in a position where they'd have good standing to have no marijuana, he should have vetoed it. He should have spoke up against it. But go back into the record, and guess what? Because I was there. I was waiting for it and watching it. Mayor Davis never spoke up for. What Mayor Davis has chosen to do is play legal games that cost the city a whole lot of money, and we don't have it. And a lot of what he's doing is he's just praying he can stall it past this election so he can put up the false pretense
that's a
that
good
he's
point.
anti-marijuana
Right.
when all he is a guy who's playing games that are costing our city a lot.
And
There's no solution.
And the Latter-day
It's a mess.
Saints are all they're all moving, even in Utah. Not all of them, but like they're moving to a more lenient
A little
look at it,
accepted,
and, and maybe a small group
Even
there.
medical, yes.
But that small group grows just like in every other group,
Right.
and they'll eventually see that there is medicinal value to some of these things. And what they've been saying is there is bad things about cannabis, but there's also a lot of good things. So we got to give it a chance to study it.
But here's the problem. Here's the problem. They put this on there, and if you actually read it, it says that the ordinance doesn't actually pass unless the tax measure passes.
Interesting.
You got to read the fine print on everything.
But to me, like I know,
But here's
if cannabis is in it anywhere in the United States, it's gonna win.
and that's the problem, Robert. That's the whole.
so you have to
That's the
pay
whole
it.
setup. Okay, because here's the thing: the taxes that they're going to collect, first of all, they're too high. Okay, second of all, they're general taxes, which means it's all going in the general fund.
Oh, that's crazy. Not for
should have
enforcement or anything
it
like
should
that?
have been. It should have been a special election, and it should have all that money should have been earmarked, like 10% here, 10% here, 10% here, 15% here, 20% here, because we already know that in this city we don't have a good handle on our general fund. Even today, okay, like that money that they say we have a surplus, it is not a surplus. It is in stocks and bonds. It is not liquid money. We cannot go to the bank and write a check and withdraw that money.
And even worse, the only reason we have $30 million is because that's the $30 million that Burtech paid so they could have the trash system. So what happens is the same old government bait and switch. They're going to sit there and say, well, we can't help that the trash fees are raised because that's Burtech's responsibility.
Which they've already raised
Yeah.
them.
Now, Burtech is a business, and Burtech got into it. And there was a reason why they couldn't raise the rates for a year, because they wanted to kind of mellow it out and all of that. Burtech is a business who needs to make a profit. They couldn't raise those rates unless the city had voted us under the table to set us up in the first place.
And let me tell you a little story about that. So, in all this homelessness and all these evictions and all this craziness I've had to go through, my dad says I'm calling a dumpster, which my dad calls a dumpster My dad is like the dumpster king, okay? He's like, get a dumpster, get the trash, get da-da-da-da-da. This is and my dad is 70 years old. He's been in real estate for over 50 years. He's been in San Bernardino for over 50 years.
You're one tough cookie, let me tell you.
And let me tell you, my dad, he called Burtech. They told him the trash bin was like $700. He almost had a heart attack. Okay. Then he was like, never freaking mind. So then he calls around and he can get a better deal at all these other trash companies. But they tell my dad they can't bring a dumpster because Burtech has a contract and they'll get in trouble and they'll get fined. Okay. So not only is Burtech raping you in the rates, but they got this contract. So a person like my dad who really only wanted to pay $450 for a dumpster.
Isn't that a monopoly?
Yes. So let me tell you, after all these years I just told you of my dad ordering a dumpster, my dad rented a U-Haul truck, the biggest U-Haul truck he could find, and he stuck it all in there and he drove it all to the dump that way, and he saved himself over $400.
Wow, amazing, beautiful.
You know.
That's how businessmen think right there.
And Mayor Davis in his campaign is talking about how he saved us money that way.
Well, he didn't save us any money because after all these years, he didn't get my dad's dumpster business. And for as long as my dad is here, he'll never order another dumpster. And I mean, if you could pull the records right now on how many dumpsters my dad's ordered in the course of his years in San Bernardino, okay, he could have probably built a bridge.
And here's the worst part. The San Bernardino City Refuse Department that we sold actually operated in the black. It was not having a single impact on making the bankruptcy worse. In fact, it was a solid part that gave us financial solidity, and we sold it.
It gave us money because we make a lot of money in the recyclables. We collect that's why Burtech wanted to pay us so much money, because they know what we get from the recyclables. But the reason that they're not making as much money as they think is because the homeless people are taking all the recycles out of the trash can.
Yeah, we can Well,
That's why they raised our rates, to tell you, because they're like, oh no.
my mom's car was broken into 2 days ago. And she left the door open, and they went in and they took her cart that she takes to the food bank. And yes, we get food from the food bank because we ain't got no money. But when we get food bank money, you can survive a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier to do that. But
Yeah.
Where is the food bank now, since it's not at the Home Enabler Services?
my mom's the food bank queen. She knows all the information for all that stuff and gives it to everybody. That's one of her things. She likes
Where
to
is
help
it?
people
Oh.
get food. But
Robert doesn't know.
I'm not sure
Well-
which one. But I always help Scott with that one. But I really haven't been to the one she goes to right now. She goes early, and that's usually my Starbucks time. So head over to Starbucks.
Robert doesn't have an answer for us, so we can't tell our listeners where the food bank is.
Hey, Robert,
But you got to realize something. I'm going to put
dang.
I'm going to put a kudos in here to Robert's mom, because I worked with her for quite a while, and you said the lady goes to the food banks for the food, but you know what? She puts her heart, and she works so hard. She earns far more than she takes in food, and once she takes it, she makes. How many different people does she give it to? She gives most of it away.
She makes sure that the people that really need it get their food, and she's not greedy. She makes sure and gets
Exactly.
She gives all the good stuff to them. I'm like, wait a second, man, that's some good fruit right there. I'll eat those, but especially if they have kids. So she does that.
Your mom's got a huge heart. She was a great worker too, and I can say that.
And
from
she
working with
did
her.
a good job over there at the spooky shack yesterday, and she dressed up as a witch, and I was like, I thought you were gonna dress up.
Robert, that's not funny.
I'm sitting here
He's not listening.
Robert, I'm
Robert's in
complimenting your mother, and I'm giving her kudos, and you're dogging her in the process. I mean, come on now,
That's not
Robert.
even anything. When I got the Halloween decorations out, I set them all in the front yard, and I go, Mom, your hat's out here. And
Robert, you're treating her like she's you're treating her like she's one of the elected officials in the city that's been lying to us for 4 years.
No, this is how my mom. She says, "I'll just kick your."
Good for her.
Robert, couple of East Side EI political things going on, especially in Yucaipa.
What's going down?
Well, interestingly enough, is that they're blaming the clerk, of course. This is not the first time it's happened, and I predicted it would. It seems as that the two people running for city council, the misinformation was given about their campaign, and it went out, and nobody looked at it, and nobody from the county looked at it, nobody at the assessor's office looked at it, so it's complete misinformation.
So who's running for?
Well, this is Avila and Wayne Paget, and Avila is the guy that I've spoken about that basically claims is that the toxic dump is not a problem of Yucaipa's.
Is he going to move over there and live there with his family?
He should. That's what I say, definitely. So he likes to sit there. He's the one. He and his wife had a forum. She's with the Chamber of Commerce. Nobody was allowed to ask questions, and we finally found out that his wife was the one that worked for the Chamber of Commerce. But one of the things we've had a little bit of a problem with besides the dump is it looks as that the county is doing some other remediation, and again, we cannot get any information from it. They're being very negligent when it comes to Public Records Acts. But people said, well, what are we going to do about this situation? And they said, well, that's not a big deal. So they're not going to do anything. They're sending like a little message out to everybody. I'm going to ask for a special election. I mean, how can you just arbitrarily change that? They did that when we had an initiative process one time, and it went to the registrar of voters because they gave you the wrong information. And we had to collect signatures. We did it in 10 days, and that's how we defeated Walmart and Home Depot. They were going to take all of Outer Highway 10. Another thing today is Mr. Tim Donnelly had his giant signs up illegally on public posts, and somebody tore them down because they were basically about... Yeah, I just don't know who. But they were about Congressman Paul Cook, who is a decorated Vietnam vet, and that he in his congressional position, although he's voted with Trump 98% of the time, was for transgender people having sex operations and the public paying for it. So, I don't know, his signs just fell down. Must have been a win. I feel so bad,
So, Scott.
This is a guy
yeah,
that's
right.
taught me
This is
everything.
what Scott, we've been having this argument
Let
for
me
like
put
a few
this
weeks.
back and forth to you.
Yeah.
I saw the pictures of Donnelly's signs, and they should not have been posted on the telephone poles. That
Highway
being said,
signs, everything, yep.
as per California state law, if you do not own the property and you are caught taking down signs, you will be prosecuted and you will have a record. And if you don't believe me, there's a certain person.
Jim Smith.
I didn't say it.
I did.
Okay. Who was caught
Right.
and prosecuted and was put on probation. And he was not the only one. Okay?
That's unless if it's in a right of way or it's on any public
No,
transportation
no.
corridor. No, it was a case that went through State of California and Lieberman, and that was several years ago. Common Core said basically if it's a hazard, which it is, if you're putting on a highway sign, you can take it down.
The state can take it down. As a private resident, you cannot go onto some other property that you have no control.
It's your property. It's public property.
Wrong.
No.
You cannot.
Superior Court case
I
3
have
years ago.
investigated and people have
I
been
had the
prosecuted
same
for
argument.
that.
Okay, so how about this? We'll have to.
We have to agree to disagree until we get the law.
It's on you to get that law,
right.
that case,
All
and
right.
we'll see it.
Okay, because in the city of San Bernardino, there is no ordinance for putting signs anywhere, and I have worked on campaigns where we have straight out put them on the telephone poles. Why? Because when we checked with the people who own the telephone poles, they said, no, we don't like it, we don't want it, but we don't have the manpower, and we have no legal right to do anything.
When did people start individually owning telephone poles?
No, the utilities own the telephone poles.
Right, and they are on what land?
So if you,
They're-
it doesn't
they're-
matter.
It's public property.
No.
That's a side. That's
Listen
what
to
a
these
sidewalk
guys
is.
argue signs.
I work for a utility. Trust me, you have no right as a citizen to come on and do what you want to do on a utility property. Now, you can go ahead and insist that, but when that camera
We're going to
clicks,
get down to it. We're going to get
and
to actual
those
details.
photographs go into the district attorney's office, and you find yourself in court. When you're on probation, have
See,
fun
we
telling
shoulda
your
smoked
probation.
We didn't
joint
say who
before
did.
that.
Nobody did it over here.
Hey, one other point. Last Friday we had the hearing at Superior Court. That was the Friends of Lytle Creek against the Ferris Brothers, the City of Rialto, and Oil
Yeah.
Can Cheryl Brown, and all that stuff. And this is real strange. And I think of all the environmental court cases I've been involved in, is that Judge Alvarez, who I think is a pretty good judge myself, he took new information from the other party, which I think is real strange when it actually came to the hearing, because this is our second hearing, and he's put it off till December. My own opinion on that is,
Like a new environmental report or something?
well, I don't know, because what can you bring up? This is the second time they brought the same
they could have done
project.
another CEQA.
No, all they did was fudge numbers. They didn't change anything, and we won on 8 out of the 10 points, but we had very corrupt Judge Gafkowski disallow us from putting any information in when it went to the appellate level. But this is kind of interesting. Of that 9,000 homes, like I said, Cheryl Brown tried to make her living on that, and we got rid of her. But my opinion, and from what I've heard from Fish and Wildlife, it looks as that there may be a jeopardy opinion issued, and that's big time for several species. But I think what Alvarez was intelligent in doing is, if the Republicans maintain the House, they will destroy what's left of the planet, and that will be gutting every environmental law that they haven't destroyed already.
Let's say
It's the truth.
Yeah, well,
It's the truth.
I know. We'll stay away from that.
And the Democrats may hold that's clean air, clean water species. I mean, that's what it is. It's human survival.
All right.
There you go.
I'm saying it's good pizza.
Come on,
Because there's a Democrat, a Republican.
I'm not a Democrat. I don't like either party.
I don't either.
I'm a declined to state, and will not choose any party for my whole life. Now let's get into a few events before we're done. Now we have a Halloween coming up here, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I know the Way of the Outreach Churches has a Halloween event over there. Redlands, downtown Redlands has an event where you can walk around, and so does downtown Riverside. Why does San Bernardino not have a downtown trick-or-treat?
Because you can't walk around downtown when the lights are off,
Yes.
on, or that when it's dark. You cannot.
Oh, that'd be
I mean,
Okay.
it's
scary
crazy.
as hell.
Well, we'll
In
just
Rialto City, I know, because I'm in a position with my job where I have to monitor all that. They have not one, but probably several connected, interacted. Same thing with Fontana, same thing with Colton. In San Bernardino, your best bet is to find a church that you're comfortable with and go to, instead of looking for a Halloween thing, look for what you usually call Harvest. They
or
changed the word.
trunk or treats.
Trunk or Treat's another one, or a Harvest Festival, they call them, because churches aren't into Halloween.
And then the word I've been noticing a lot in the event is safe family fun.
They
Oh,
miss
yeah.
the whole aspect
I'm-
of what Saints Eve is about. That and
Yeah.
All Souls.
They-
Well, the purpose of a harvest festival is to honestly, they ignore the whole Halloween
Yeah.
issue. But for the kids, the games and all of that, and I know Brian's church up on 40th Street has one. Our church at Judson has one. Emmanuel Baptist has a
and
huge
what-
one,
and
and it's
what-
all
and
free.
And what I have to say to that is that All Hallows Eve has changed, is a very dynamic thing, and if it's morphing,
It's a pagan
yeah,
holiday.
yeah. Well, no, that doesn't
holy
necessarily
day.
that doesn't mean that other groups can't
right.
enjoy that day too, and then make it fun for the kids. And I want more events for the kids. I don't care what they call it.
I just want to tell you guys that the downtown trick or treat used to be in the Carousel Mall, and we don't have the Carousel Mall, and we've sold off all the assets.
I heard it's getting trashed inside there.
I've heard that too.
And
Purposefully.
That's why they actually sold off all the assets, because the homeless people kept getting in and they didn't want those things destroyed, so they wanted to get the money that they
well,
did.
under the leadership of Mayor Davis, we had all this wonderful city council presentations about how they're going to build all these wonderful buildings and do all this wonderful stuff, and it's all connected with the city theater and all of that. And funny thing with Mayor Davis is,
I'm still waiting.
one of his campaign highlights isn't about Carousel Mall. He is silent. Why? Because they lost the developer. There's no developer.
Yeah, that guy took off. Oh man!
Well, of course he did. It was doomed
I
from
want
the start.
to get through these last events real quick. We also have the air show at the San Bernardino International Airport. I love it. We're having it. We're having it for 2 days in a row, and
Poor dogs.
and
The blue, is it the blue
If I
Angels?
can, I'm going to be there at least one day this weekend.
I already wrote them and trying to get a press pass if I can, because I love going to that thing. And I love
I
it.
met them from staying at the Hilton, and they gave us all free tickets, and they let us go on the
They're
the
good
jet.
over
Yeah,
there.
they're
They
nice.
always treated me good, and even when I tried to barge in, they let me in. So they're good.
I heard
people.
Cassie McDuff's going to drop out of a plane at 30,000 feet.
I don't know what's going on over there. But then also on that same day, on the Saturday, they have a Brew Rebellion over there it's having their local palooza where they're having local bands and stuff. So after you're done with their show, head on over to Brew Rebellion, have a beer, and it's right there on Leland Norton Way, and enjoy yourself. Then, all right, we got the Veterans Parade Sunday, November 11th at 11 a.m. near Meadowbrook Park. So it's an event that I try to do every year, and Suavecito's heavily involved, and so is the city. I think
It's not VA sponsored, right?
no, it's city sponsored. I think more like Suavecito's worked their butt off on it, and then
city takes
city
parts
took
of it.
over
Very
or
cool,
whatever.
very cool.
But you know what it comes down to is it's for veterans.
Yes.
and that's the main thing. And if we can get people out there to show support for our veterans, it's incredible because they need support.
Yeah.
I mean, if they
Largest
have,
homeless
especially the ones that have
population.
PTSD and things, or were wounded in war. I mean, they love these kinds of events, and they love that we show them respect. So we also have the Turkey Trot coming up on Thanksgiving. Starts at 7 a.m. You can register at turkeytrot.com. That's November 22nd on Thanksgiving. I know you know what Thanksgiving is, so you don't even have to mark the date.
It's the day I sleep in.
Yeah. But if you wish, you can wake up early like me. I'll be waking up at the butt crack of dawn, getting out there to set up and helping Felicia Alexander and Damon Alexander set up this incredible event. I will be MC, talking my butt off.
Nothing wrong with the turkey
can't
trot,
believe
but it's
Robert.
Thanksgiving, and my time will be with my family. That's it.
Nice.
Period.
I always take all the holidays. It's like I work all the time. If during a holiday nobody bothers me, so I'm not getting up and I'm not doing nothing.
I love it. Sounds good, Carmel.
All right, I like to end this segment. We're almost done with the show here, but I'd like to end it with something positive that you could let the viewers know that they could do for San Bernardino. Go ahead, Carmel.
You can vote on November 6th. That's the most
I
positive
forgot
thing
all
you can
about that.
do.
Yes, that's very important. Scott.
I agree with Carmel.
Oh, you voting?
That and support the Veterans Day Parade. Take a break from life. You're going to get the day off.
What about church? What church you go to?
I attend. I'm not a member. My wife is a member. I attend Judson Baptist.
Okay.
And I'm very happy with the church, and they do a lot of great things. So
And Carmel, what
Calvary Chapel, the Red Barn.
Okay, now I personally don't go to church, but I'm always going to church for events and things. But I think it's an important part of spiritual recovery for people, and some for just a spiritual lifestyle is to go to church. And some people need more, some people need less of it. But for me personally, I find my own spiritual stuff at home and burning sage and praying. But other people, they need to have the community part in that aspect. So if you want to actually mention an event for your churches and stuff, do it on I Love San Bernardino, and I love to have those posted up.
I'll find out what permission I can get to mention whatever I do. But Carmel, you and I got to keep working on Robert, don't we?
Mr. Kelly, what can we do?
Well, the same thing we've been doing at Kwanam Buddhist Meditation Center in Redlands is that we'll be distributing homemade food to the homeless in Redlands and banning. It seems San Bernardino's covered this year.
And mine is just like always. I'm really proud of We Are the Change, picking up trash and everything. So why don't you give them an extra help and go out in front of your own home and pick up any trash you see in the street.
Yeah.
They're doing a great thing. I really like what that group is doing.
Yeah, we're proud of them, And this is Robert Porter with the I Love San Bernardino County radio show. And Carmel, we are
out.
Say you don't know me, I recognize my face.